So if you're at risk for developing emphysema or chronic bronchitis or a combination of the two known as COPD, there are 3 natural supplements that we can incorporate into our daily routine that will greatly help us out and hopefully bring about a quickening relief and an increased ability to actually breathe air. Okay, so what are these 3 natural supplements that I'm talking about? One, you have certainly heard of before. It is called green tea. It's the standard run-of-the-mill green tea sold all over the world. Now, in this particular case, we want a form of green tea called matcha, and it's just a powderized green tea. Now, the second healthy supplement you may or may not have heard of. If you're an athlete, you probably heard of it. It is a mushroom, and it's called Cordyceps, and we want an extract of that. So Cordyceps extract. Now, the third supplement, you may or may not have heard about it. It's an enzyme, and it's called serrapeptase. Now, to keep it short, simple, and concise, I'm really going to be focusing on one aspect that dictates our ability to comfortably breathe or not. And it has to do with a category or a class of enzymes produced within our body. These enzymes are called matrix metalloproteinases. Now, in the nomenclature, you're going to find it as MMP or some variation of it. There's quite a few. So we're just going to be focusing on MMP2, MMP9, and MMP12. Just in passing, I'm not really going to talk about them too much. You just need to know that they're there. Okay, so anyway, when we breathe in air, there should be a natural impulse of your body to exhale naturally. Like, you shouldn't really have to think about forcing the air out. When we actually have to force the air out, this is what we would call the development of emphysema. And then, of course, if there's a bunch of mucus in your lungs also, and maybe some bronchitis, this is when we would say, okay, somebody definitely has COPD. It just represents the inability of your lungs to naturally expand and contract almost on their own. So on each little alveoli or each little sac that is a component of your lung tissue, as it expands with oxygen, there should be these little rubber band things all across the surface of this guy that as you expand, they tighten up and they want to close. And this naturally and effortlessly helps you exhale. Now, when these guys malfunction, as we breathe in, there's no bounce back. They chronically expand and they've lost their tonicity, so they cannot close properly on their own. These little guys are actually elastin fibers. It's the same thing that gives your skin like a bounce back. So if you take the skin on the back of your hand and you pull it up, and as soon as you let go of your skin, the skin automatically flattens. This is the elastic nature of your skin. It's called, the protein is actually called elastin. And we have these proteins all across our lungs. Now, why would they mess up is the obvious question. Now, in this particular case, oftentimes there's an immune system component. So let's say there's something in our environment that's a trigger. The obvious one would be smoke. Let's say somebody is a habitual smoker, a chronic smoker, they've been smoking for 50 years. So as they, inhale that cigarette, for example, their body's exposed to smoke, but not just all of their body. There's a particular part of their body that's exposed to it, obviously their lungs, but our immune system is also scattered throughout our lungs, and it's constantly monitoring the quality of our air, what's coming in, did we breathe in a bacteria, whatever. So it just so happens that smoke is a sensitizing agent of our immune system. And part of our immune system's response is the activation of 2 of these matrix metalloproteinases, MMP2 and MMP9. So they're active, they wake up, and they start doing their job. And part of their job is to activate another enzyme, matrix metalloproteinase 12. So all of a sudden we have several of these guys active in our body, and what do they do is the obvious question. They essentially break us down. So another word for a matrix metalloproteinase, or MMP, is collagenase, or a gelatinase, or elastinase. So that word ACE at the end of collagen or gelatin or elastin represents an enzyme whose job it is to break down, melt it, deconstruct it. So when I breathe in smoke, for example, my immune system is activating these things, these enzymes that are going to start breaking down the structural integrity of my body. In this particular case, it's my lungs. And you know, the interesting thing is when we're studying like emphysema in the laboratory and we're working with mice and we engineer them in such a way that they cannot produce or they have a difficult time producing that MMP12, that matrix metalloproteinase 12, and we expose them to cigarette smoke, no matter how much smoke we expose them to, they do not develop emphysema. This is how powerful this enzyme is in our body and good it is at breaking down our elastin fibers throughout our whole body. Cigarette smoke happens to be a trigger of our immune system that ultimately will release a flood of these enzymes and over time will break down our internal collagen and elastin matrices. So this ultimately leads to what we would call emphysema. And then oftentimes when our immune system is active, we also produce some mucus. So there's that mucoid plaque component involved with it. So when somebody with COPD, for example, breathes in, you can often hear a bunch of rumbling going on inside of their chest. So the obvious question is then what to do about it, and what do these 3 healthy supplements do that I mentioned before? Well, they actually do awesome things. Starting with, let's say, cordyceps and green tea. They work similarly. What do? They actually work with our body at reducing the quantity, or they start to help balance the ratios of those MMPs, those matrix metalloproteinases. So Cordyceps mushroom, for example, has a particular affinity to reduce the overall quantity of MMP2 and MPP9, those matrix metalloproteinases that are the initial activating factor that would ultimately lead to MMP12. So Cordyceps mushroom helps calm our immune system down enough, and it helps our immune system ask the question, okay, what really is the appropriate response here? Do I really need to activate all of these body degrading enzymes? Well, maybe not. Anyway, so Cordyceps mushroom is world renowned for its ability to help us breathe better. It's awesome for anybody with asthma, COPD, bronchitis. It really, really does help our lungs work better. And in part, how it helps our lungs work better, it keeps the structure of our lungs intact longer, which is awesome. It also helps with energy production. Now, green tea, moving right along, also works with those matrix metalloproteinases. Now, in particular, green tea has this catechin, or this polyphenol, this healthy plant compound. You may have heard of it before. It's called EGCG. And it has a particular affinity to focus in on that MMP12. Now, there was an interesting study done in Asia, and it found that people who just drank 2 cups of green tea a day, who were habitual smokers, drinkers, etc., had a party lifestyle, whatever, their risk at developing emphysema went down by like 40%. That's just 2 cups of green tea a day. That's really, really easy. So that is a huge number. That just shows you how powerful green tea can be. And we mentioned matcha earlier because when you drink matcha, you're getting more absorption of the EGCG. Now you can also just buy EGCG by itself, but in green tea there's a bigger spectrum of these catechins that work with our body and help us maintain an appropriate balance of those matrix metalloproteinases. And again, that's found in the whole spectrum of the plant. Now, moving right along to the 3rd healthy natural supplement, which is an enzyme, serrapeptase. And this guy is awesome at breaking down the mucoid plaque that can develop in our chest, in our lungs, in our bronchioles, in our nasal cavities. So oftentimes, if we just have a bunch of allergies, our immune system has been active, producing a lot of mucus in our lungs, and we need to expel that. The serrapeptase enzyme is really, really awesome at helping to chop that stuff up, thin it out so that we can actually cough it up and get it out of us. So these three natural supplements, they really do work awesome, and they're very, very powerful and easy to get. They don't taste bad, especially the green tea. It's pretty good. Anyway, so these are my 3 tips for anybody with emphysema, COPD, or chronic bronchitis. Now, bonus, I'm just going real quick bonus. Black cumin seed oil is really, really good. If you have a lot of inflammation in your esophagus, laryngitis, pharyngitis, obviously bronchitis, black cumin seed oil is awesome for that. And another, I'm just going to throw it out there, another good herb called ginseng is as well known for its ability to help us oxygenate and increase the capacity of our lungs better. Anyway, cheers. I wish you all the luck, and see you next time.